When people think of beauty pageants, they might think of a few things. They might think of Miss America, where women dress up on stage and say how they would change the world. They might think of Toddlers and Tiaras, a show where moms and children enter in pageants and drama assures. They might think of JonBenet Ramsey, a murdered little girl who became the face of pageants and one of the most famous murder cases of the 20th century. Her murder became a media sideshow, with news channels and magazines talking about it. It made her parents famous for all the wrong reasons. One minute they were a normal couple, the next they were murder suspects. To this day, JonBenet's murder is one of the most discussed and theorized due to how it happened. A little girl kidnapped on Christmas night with her ransom note left behind. Just hours later, she is found dead in the house. It seems about 50% of the evidence says a family member did it, while the other 50% says it was impossible for a family member to do it. This is the story of how a little beauty queen became the crime of the century. This is the murder of JonBenet Ramsey. But before I begin, be sure to hit that subscribe button and make sure that notifications are on as well. JonBenet Patricia Ramsey was born on August 6, 1990, to John and Patricia Ramsey. Her first name was a combination of her father's first and middle name, and her middle name was her mother's first. She was their second child, with her older brother Burke being 3 years older than her. John had been married before and had two daughters, Melinda and Elizabeth, from that marriage that ended divorce in 1978. Elizabeth herself died in a car accident along with her boyfriend in 1992. Patricia was 13 years younger than John was, and was a former beauty pageant star. It was something she would eventually pass to her daughter. John was the president of a company called Axis Graphics, so they were pretty wealthy. JonBenet was born in Atlanta, Georgia, but spent her life in Boulder, Colorado, where John's business was. Her family lived in a house that John bought for $500,000. She lived in a nice house, a safe neighborhood, and had all she could ever want. Despite being rich, she went to a public school called High Peaks Elementary. Students said she was nice and social, always wanting to play and help others. Her teacher said she was at a first grade level. She spent time with her dad when he had the free time, and with her mom during pageants. She and her brother got into typical sibling fights, but also played as well. She was full of life and enjoyed playing dress-up, riding her bike, and make-believe. She loved music and liked to sing and dance. She liked the attention, which helped her get into pageants. Despite being in pageants and liking dolls, John says she also had a tomboy side to her as well. Her pageant life was a part of her life, and her mom, which Patsy, encouraged her to be in. She participated in both local and regional and won a few, and winning her first title in 1994 at the age of 4. The pageants were a way for her and her mom to spend some mother-daughter time together. Despite taking a part of her life, they were not her whole personality, and she had a life outside pageants, something the media would ignore later on. Behind the dresses and makeup, JonBenet was just your average girl. But this would change on Christmas Day, 1996, when her face became the face that shook a nation. December 25th, 1996, For the Ramsey family, this day started out like any other Christmas. The kids opened their presents, they talked to family, ate dinner, and had a wonderful time. JonBenet played with her presents from Santa just like any other kid. But in less than 24 hours, JonBenet would be dead. The Ramseys spent most of their day at their friend's house, the Whites. There, she played with other kids and sang songs, as John and Patsy spent time with the adults. They left the party later and made a few stops to drop off some presents. The family returned home later that night around 10. There was more than one story here. One is that Burke saw his sister walk upstairs. John then read to JonBenet and tucked her in. She also changed her pants into long john bottoms. Another is that JonBenet had fallen asleep in the car. So John carried her to her bedroom and tucked her in. Whichever, this would reportedly be the last time anyone saw her alive. They soon put Burke to sleep and tucked in for the night themselves. A little after 5:30, Patsy woke up and headed downstairs to brew some coffee. As she headed downstairs, she saw something on the kitchen stairs. A note. She read it and screamed. It was a ransom note. JonBenet had been kidnapped. She told John and called the police at 5:52 a.m., telling them that JonBenet was missing and a random note was left.
911 emergency. Police. What's going on? 515th Street. What's going on there, ma'am?
We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please.
Explain to me what's going on, okay?
There's a note left and our daughter's gone.
A note was left and your daughter is gone? How old is your daughter?
6 years old. She's gone. 6 years old.
How long ago was it?
I don't know. I just found the note. And my daughter's
Does
gone.
it say who took her?
What?
Does it say who took her?
I don't know. There's a ransom note here.
It's a ransom note?
It says SBTC. Victory. Please.
Okay, what's your name? Are you
Patsy Ramsey, I'm the mother. Oh my God. Please.
Okay, I'm sending an officer over, okay?
Please.
Do you know how long she's been
No,
gone?
I don't. Please, we just got out. Is she right here? Oh my God, please.
Okay,
Please, there's somebody.
I am, honey.
Please.
Take a deep breath for me,
Please,
okay?
hurry.
Patsy, 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 Patsy.
Police arrived within minutes. However, a detective would not arrive until shortly after 8. There was no sign of forced entry. The Ramseys called friends and family to help give questions to police and comfort them. This would later prove to be a mistake, as they would move things around and clean tampering evidence. The note said that they would call any time from 8 to 10 a.m. So they wired the phone and waited. But the call never came. By 1 o'clock, they gave up on the kidnapper calling. Detective Linda Art tells John and his friend, Fleet White, to search the house to see if anything is out of place. They looked in the basement. While there was a small window broken, it was too small for an adult, and John said he broke it last summer. John opened a door to a room that had been missed earlier. There, in the wine cellar, was the body of JonBenet. Her mouth was duct taped, her arms tied, and a blanket over her. Her favorite Barbie nightgown is lying by her, but not on her. John picks her up and takes her upstairs, calling that he found her as people gaffer. It was clear that she was dead, as her stiff body and odor gave up rigor mortis. Detectives and officers were horrified at the scene. John held her close as he laid her down. Patsy finds out and weeps over her daughter's death. The kidnapping case becomes a murder case. As the house is searched for any clues over the next few days, her body is looked at. Her official death is strangulation. Her skull was also fractured. Pineapple was found in her stomach, but had not yet been digested. She most likely ate it a few hours before her death. While there was no evidence of rape, it was still possible she had been. She had been sexually assaulted. Part of a paintbrush that was tied to the cord to strangle her was used on her vaginal area. The skull fracture was brutal and is believed to have been caused by either the bowl with pineapple or more likely a flashlight. The rope around her neck was so tight it cut through the skin. A taser might have been used on her neck, as there were also burn marks on her. People were horrified someone would do something so cruel to a child. Within hours after waking up, the Ramseys' lives changed forever. But they were going to change a lot more. JonBenet's funeral was held on December 31st, 1996, at Peachtree Presbyterian Church in Atlanta, Georgia. She was buried next to her half-sister Elizabeth, who died in 1992, at St. James Esperasco Cemetery. It was just 2 days after Patsy's 39th birthday. Many people were in attendance, including friends, family, people from school and work, and more. Patsy wept openly, while John tried to stay controlled. It didn't take long for the media to spread the story around. John and Patsy had an interview on CNN on New Year's where they talked about the murder and pled for help to find who did it. Some people found this suspicious, as they thought most parents would still be grieving too much to do an interview. The cruelty of the murder gained much attention. That, combined with the odd note, and that Boulder was a safe town, gained more interest nationwide. Soon, JonBenet's face was on newspapers, magazines, and TV across the country. She had become the Lindbergh kidnapping of the 90s. But what really stood out from other murder cases were the pageants. Most murdered children are either scouts, band members, or sports players, but being in pageants made her unique. But it wasn't in a good way. When the pageant videos and photos made their way to the public, it brought a lot of negativity to the Ramseys and the pageant community. The way she looked like a glorified doll spoke some outrage. Beforehand, people thought pageants were events where girls wore princess dresses, said innocent things on stage, and won an award. Just something to feel pretty for a day and make friends. But JonBenet changed that. When people saw her in those revealing outfits, heavy makeup, and stylized hair, it brought backlash. Many people saw it as sexualization of children. She looked more like a Vegas showgirl than anything else. Some began to question if her killer was a child predator who was following her around and other girls at the pageants. Some parents wanted to put restrictions on pageants, or even get rid of them altogether. Her murder changed the pageant community forever. Her parents got much criticism for allowing her to be in them. Being a former pageant queen herself, Patsy didn't see a problem. She did have defenders who said people were overreacting and that pageants were just harmless fun. They were a way to make friends, boost confidence, make new skills, and do something with them, and more. But many also said it would damage a child's brain at that age, having to worry about their image. Patsy was seen as a stage mother, someone who tells their kid winning is more important than anything. People wondered if JonBenet had a normal life, would she still be here? As the case became more mainstream, people decided to give their own opinions. Books were written talking about it and who was involved. A TV movie called Perfect Murder, Perfect Town was released in 2000. It didn't say if John and Patsy are guilty or not, but allows the viewers to decide. The handling of the crime scene was criticized. Detectives and cops should not have let so many people enter for not sealing off the scene, letting John search the house rather than the cops, and John moving the body before it could be checked. Detective Arndt would retire after the criticism she got. These mistakes led to the scene being disturbed and destroying any possible evidence. In 1999, a jury indicted John and Patsy over her murder. This was not revealed into the public for years until 2013. However, District Attorney Alex Hunter never approved it, due to lack of evidence. Because of this, they were never prosecuted. But Patsy and John were not the only suspects. While they were the main, there were more. Now, investigators had to find them. There were quite a few suspects in the killing of JonBenet. John was a big one. For many, he seemed like a loving, hardworking father. He would never harm a hair on her head. However, theories stated he molested her and then killed her to keep it quiet. Many found John's static behavior following her death concerning. The ransom note demanded $118,000. This was the exact amount John made as a bonus that year. $118,000 is also an odd number for a ransom. Most people would be asking for $1 million or $500,000. When he and Fleet went into the basement, he immediately checked the wine cellar where her body was. He then disturbed the crime scene by taking her body, though one could say he was in a state of shock. While she was missing, he looked at mail like any other day, though he said he was looking for any other notes. He supposedly held her away as he carried her as if she were a bag of trash. He didn't cradle her like a father whose daughter was missing would. When he wept on the floor, some said he made crying sounds, but no tears. Had he already knew she was dead? However, John never had a history of abuse and was a devoted father. No DNA to link him was found either. Then there is Patsy. The note was written on a pad owned by her, along with the paintbrush. Some of the handwriting on the note was similar to hers, though not similar enough to say she wrote it. She was the one who found the note and called 911. Some think it sounds staged. She did have acting skills. JonBenet was a bedwetter, which Patsy didn't like. She even wore pull-ups, diapers sometimes. Some think JonBenet wet the bed that night and Patsy hit her on the head. Others think JonBenet wanted to quit pageants, which didn't make Patsy happy, though sources say the girl liked them. Both she and John hired lawyers quickly, making them suspicious. Like with John, DNA ruled her out, and handwriting experts could not find any match. She was said to be devastated after the murder. Investigators said she didn't have a motive and that the mother and daughter liked spending time together. Then there's Burke. Burke is said to have anger issues as a kid, and was jealous if the attention and success his sister got. Some said his behavior is weird, even to this day. Though having a pageant mother, a businessman father, and murdered sister might have messed him up growing up. Many think Burke killed her, and their parents covered it up to protect him. He might have used a flashlight that was clean to smash her head. Burke was asleep when cops arrived. When cops tried to ask him questions, John said he was asleep. Some found that odd, and John and Patsy let Burke sleep while his sister was missing. For most parents, if one of their kids was kidnapped, they would want their other kids by their side at all time, just to be safe. DNA also ruled him out. He was only 9 at the time and never had any evidence against him. The housekeeper, Linda Hoffman-Perg, was looked at. She had the house keys and wanted a raise, but she cooperated with police and passed his test. A man named Chris Wolf was also on the list. He had a history of violence, and his girlfriend said he acted strange after the murder. A local man named Michael Helgoff was a suspect. He worked at an auto salvage nearby, and said he and another person were going to make around $60,000 each. Just weeks after the murder, he committed suicide when he was about to be looked at. A sex offender named Gary Alova came up. He was a pedophile with bad history and was a fan of JonBenet, even keeping a photo of her. A man who dressed up as Santa at the Ramseys named Bill McReynolds was named. His wife wrote a play about a girl killed in the basement, and his own daughter was kidnapped once, but he was seen as a harmless guy. A neighbor, Todd Fuss, came up. He was seen as odd and had knowledge on the house. But all those people were checked with lack of evidence and DNA testing. John Marcar is a man who confessed to killing her in 2006. He said it was an accident during a love game and did have a thing for young girls. But he wasn't in Boulder at the time and DNA didn't match. Most think he's just a weirdo obsessed with JonBenet. Every person on the list was cleared with DNA testing and lack of evidence. But many still believe it was one of these people. A lot still expect at least one of the Ramseys. But without evidence, they can't be charged. Was it someone on the list, or was it no one ever looked at and slipped away? To this day, no one is sure, and her case remains unsolved. It's been almost 30 years since JonBenet's murder, and it still remains unsolved. She would have been 35 today. She would have her own life, and with her father's money, might be successful herself. John is now in his 80s. He hopes one day her case will be solved before his time comes. Only then can he truly rest. Patsy died on June 24, 2006, at age 49 from a long battle with ovarian cancer. It was something she had even when JonBenet was alive. She didn't get to live to see C and her husband's name cleared in 2008. She is buried next to her daughter. Burke has mostly lived a quiet life, though it's safe to say he will never have a normal one. In 2016, he sued CBS for defamation when a documentary suggested he killed his sister, and settled in 2019. The Ramseys moved from their Boulder house not long after JonBenet's murder. It has gone through multiple sales since. A listing in 2023 had it selling for $7 million. However, it was taken off the market in March 2024 after it didn't sell. Some of the suspects have passed away, while others live their lives. With DNA technology getting better, detectives hope one day the murderer of JonBenet will be found. The case was reopened in 2010, and the DNA has been looked at a few times since, but no luck yet. Still, people remain hopeful. Even almost 30 years later, her case is still discussed. It probably will be until it can be solved. But it shouldn't be forgotten that JonBenet was a person. People tend to only remember JonBenet, the beauty pageant, rather than JonBenet, the person. She had other hobbies, opinions, friends, and overall life outside pageants. It's good people still talk about her today, but people need to remember there's more to her than those photos and videos. Her life was made into a media sideshow. Because her case gets so much attention, it might make other cases to the sidelines and forgotten. It shouldn't be forgotten that those families want their loved ones, murders, or disappearances solved too. Maybe if it's solved, it should be time to put it to rest. Then, JonBenet can exit the stage for the final time.